Alrighty, I think we are live, and it is a good afternoon to everybody. It's so great to be back. We haven't been on the green room for a while. I must say I did miss everybody. I did miss chatting to people on the webinar, but most of all, what I missed most of everything is the warm weather. So we have gone into spring here, and sorry for those that are in the Northern Hemisphere. You've had your go. It's our turn now. It feels like it was a very, very long winter, yeah. And normally our winters are mild, but we had a nice little cold front come through last weekend as well that wasn't called for. But I think we've pushed through more of the ugly. But welcome everybody to the green room. We are so excited to have you here. We've got another great panelist that we'll introduce quite shortly. I think just to go through the formalities, Trevor, would you do an introduction for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lenny. It is really exciting to be here today. And as you mentioned, we're very, very excited to have Stephanie with us today. And you'll chat a little bit more about that just now. Guys, it's the 2nd of September. I can't believe where this year is going. And I know that you and Lenny, you guys probably think that Trevor and Lenny say this all the time. It's going so fast. Every Thursday, the Thursdays just come and go. But we're excited to be in this space. This is the Enduco Group, and myself and my business partner, Lenny, we the founders of Enduco, and we're super excited because what we do is we help people that are wanting to get to America. So if it is your heart's desire, your dream, and you have been discussing certain options and you've decided that America is the place that you'd like to go to, and Lenny, I think, when we did our expo last week, we realized that a lot of people thought that the USA is just out of the question. We can't get there. It's always been sort of, it's either if I win the lotto or if I've got $500,000 up to $1 million US, I can invest and get it myself there. But for South Africans, guys, it is a possibility through us. What we do is we do an EB3, an employment-based visa, a green card, permanent residency, and we're super excited about the offerings that we have. So if you'd like to get you and your family to America, you need to get hold of someone in the Enduco Group, someone in the Enduco family. We're going to help you, guide you, show you the path that you can get you and your family there successfully. We've got a number of options. The employment-based, obviously, on the back of getting a job in the States. We also have for nursing, for guys that are currently in the States looking to go into a commercial driver's license opportunity with a company that will permanently employ them. And of course, then there's investment visa for those of you that have got a treaty with a treaty of commerce with America. So in other words, you've got a passport in one of the European countries that have got that treaty. So guys, excited about what we do and how we do it. Please look to check us out on our website, or for information, get hold of either Lenny, myself, or someone in the Enduco Group. We can help you along with that. Lenny, yeah, listen, I'm now so super excited about what we do, but go back to the green room and what we're doing for today at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, once again, the green room, if I can just remind you guys what we do here. If in any space that you are trying to immigrate, and to actually just put it plainly of what the green room actually is. So by the time that you've immigrated to any country that you are going, be it UK, America, Australia, whatever, by the time you get there and you thought, oh, well, I wish someone told me about X, Y, and Z. So this is what the green room is. The green room is another name for the X, Y, and Z. So we cover immigration topics that you wish you knew before you immigrated. So hopefully it's not too late for some of you that have immigrated and are busy immigrating, but we hope that we can, these webinars are helpful and it can actually help you immigrate successfully. Trevor, just on another one, I wanted you just to highlight, the conference that we have coming up as well, just for people that if they wanted to get hold of us and they're still new and don't know about our programs, maybe just give them some update on the conferences.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent idea. Guys, if you are based in the Johannesburg, Pretoria area, we have got a conference coming up next weekend. It is the Saturday, and it is the Houghton Golf Course. There's 2 sessions, one in the morning, one a little bit later. We've only got 50 seats at each setting because of the COVID protocols that are there. So please, if you'd like to find out more information about that, reach out to us and get in touch with us. The week after that, we are at Cape Town. We're super excited to go to Cape Town and be there again and see all of our friends that side. Guys, the Cape Town one is then the following weekend, the Saturday. So please take note of those times and places, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Awesome. All right. So guys, back to the green room, and what we do here is that today we are pretty close to number 60 on the green room webinar. But as I said to Trevor and Stephanie, is that, you know, we've had different people and different experts in their fields, but it feels like today's expert, you know, could have been just everybody. You know, as I said to Stephanie, we should have just invited her in the beginning and interviewed her 60 times. So because she's done it all. So before we get to her, as we've instituted from the beginning of the year, is we want to give you some more information about America. And obviously we're following the program that helps people go to America. So we give you either fun facts or we give you some information about America. So if people in America can advertise America, you know, you would want to know what makes America great, right? So in any country that you live, you want to pick out what makes that country great. So the guys from Barna.com did a survey last year to try and see what makes America great. So this is what they came up with. 24% of the people said the opportunity to become who you want to be. In other words, the American dream. They all voted for that. That is the most important thing for them, what makes America great. Number 2 is the Constitution, which is 21% of the people voted for that. Next one, also 21%, free speech. Next one, freedom of religion. Next one, democracy, 20%, 20%. Next, now you get to Bill of the Rights, a melting pot society, Christian origins, and values. So these have all got 14, 13, 11, and 9 respectively. All right, so if you're going to break those down as well in generations. So the baby boomers, respectively, have always just think the Constitution and the Bill of Rights should be more revered than other stuff. Where millennials go for, or Generation X go for more the technology and those type of understanding. So it's a quite a nice thing to understand, is that obviously there's 2 different generations, or more different generations than that. But I mean, people that find different things about America great. So I want to urge you to maybe go look at Barna.com and go read that for yourself. So on that, we are very proud to introduce Stephanie Janssen. Is a clinical social worker with 25 years of experience working in international communities. Throughout her career, she has held therapy and leadership posts in healthcare, education, and private practice settings. After completing her undergraduate degree in anthropology, she served as a United States Peace Corps volunteer in Togo, West Africa, creating environmental sustainability projects. In 1995, she received a master's in social work from Smith's College, with an emphasis on psychodynamic therapy. Since 2009, Stephanie has worked in Switzerland, Singapore, and Croatia, where her roles have included school counselor, child protection lead, health center director. Stephanie is currently a therapist with the Truman Group, an organization that provides high-quality psychotherapy to expats around the world. She also consults with schools and nonprofit organizations to help ensure that they have robust child safeguarding training and policies. She is certified as an intercultural trainer from the Interchange Institute and also holds a European certificate in psychotherapy. So Stephanie, and that was a mouthful. I think I haven't probably even covered everything that you do, but the topic we are going to be covering today feels that a person of your caliber and your experience is that today we are pretty much getting down to the crux of what is a successful immigration. It could almost be the mic drop of the green rooms, if you say. So Stephanie, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
Stephanie,
welcome, Stephanie. All the way from Croatia.
Yes, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, Stephanie, like Lenny said, don't you want to just give us a little bit about you that's not part of that that Lenny just shared with us?
Sure. So I think an important thing to know about me is that like you said, I was a social worker in the United States for 15 years. And then my family and I decided that we wanted to move overseas and explore the world and experience a different culture. So my husband, who was working in the school systems, got a job as an international school administrator. So I gave up my career in the States, and I know the topic that we're discussing today is accompanying spouses or partners. So I've had that experience quite a bit, where I moved with my family and I didn't have a job, and I sort of had to redefine who I was and what my role was in a new country. So like a lot of people, we moved and thought we would just do it for a few years. And then we really loved living internationally. So we stayed in Switzerland for 6 years and then moved to Singapore and are now in Croatia. We're in Croatia now. So throughout the time, I've tried to maintain some consistency in my professional identity and the other parts of my identity, but I see how for spouses or partners who are accompanying someone who's in taking a job overseas, it can be a really challenging situation. So I think it's important that people who are thinking about overseas moves sort of think about it and discuss it and know some of the common issues that come up.
No, excellent. So Stephanie, like you're saying, specifically to today's conversation, we're going to be handling the accompanying spouse, trailing spouse. I know there's a lot of different terms in this. They in terms of immigration, they call it the dependent. Talk to us a little bit about these terms and what it actually means. And let's just sort of identify what that is about, because obviously a lot of people, when they do go into this world of immigration, many people are immigrating on the back of husband or wife having a job somewhere, and then obviously this is the net result.
Right. And there have been a lot of terms that have been used, and sometimes if you want to see people really react in an online forum, as you banter some of these terms around, and people have strong feelings about them, because some of the terms that have been used are difficult for the person who's accompanying the primary breadwinner. So dependent, it's hard because a lot of people, and a lot of times it's been women, but more and more it's men as well, who have careers, identities, connections in their communities, then move and are seen as a dependent, which sort of it's sort of similar to feeling like a child and not having your own sense of self and identity. That sometimes a feeling, but sometimes that's a reality as well. For example, there were places where we lived where I wasn't able to open my own phone account, or all the utilities were in my husband's name because he was the work permit holder. So even though I was sort of in charge of managing a lot of the logistics at home, I was dependent on him. And if something happened with his work, it would impact me, which is different than when you're living in your home country. Of course, it impacts you, but not in the same way. Trailing spouse can sort of infer that you're a reluctant participant that's sort of tagging along and not, active and an equal participant in the process. So everyone has different feelings about it, but yes, it's important to sort of see the role as important and look at the joys and the challenges that it can bring.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. It is an important factor, this one. I mean, I think we've had so many other topics that we've tried to cover, and obviously at the end of the day, we wanted to have a successful immigration. And then, but this is such an important topic that we need to unpack and understand that, at the end of the day, if it is a situation, obviously, that you are married, it is such a key thing to make sure that, you've looked after the spouse through the whole journey, and you've taken them into consideration as well, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. I think it's very important that it is a collaborative decision, and that it's something that the family can go through together.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, what can tend to happen is if one person has a job and the family moves overseas, everyone's going through a large adjustment period. And sometimes what will happen is the person who has the job gets sort of swept up into the new job. They form relationships with people at work. They have a clearly defined role. Sometimes they're under a lot of pressure in a new job in a new country, so they have to put a lot of energy into this. And then the person who's at home is then sort of in charge of all the logistics, the kids. And that may be how the lives were set up before in the home country, but it may not have been. So for example, with us, we had more an equal distribution of roles and responsibilities because we were both working. So when we moved and my husband sort of got in his job, I felt a little out of sorts and was really trying to find out where I fit, what my role was, and kind of what I was doing in this new country. Yeah.
So, Stephanie, let me ask you this: as the spouse in an equation of immigration,
Yes.
what are the signs to look for in terms of, going, I remember Stephanie spoke about this, what are those signs of going, is it a factor that you feel out of place, out of depth? Do you feel that, maybe give us a couple of examples of what you've seen in the past years in your experience. What are those things that are sort of a common denominator amongst the spouse, if we can put it that way, and what to look for in these circumstances?
Sure, sure. I mean, I think one of the things, and I've alluded to it, is sort of a loss or a shifting of your identity. So if you think of identity and what it is, it's sort of the relationship we have with ourselves and our internal world, but also how we're connected to friends, to hobbies, to careers, to family. And when you move overseas, a lot of that is sort of upended and it shifts. So people can feel at first excited and it's very stimulating and there's a lot to take in, but sometimes it can feel a bit like, where do I belong? Where is my group? Who can I talk with? Or who no one knows me. I'm new to everyone. I don't have that one person I can call and talk about over, things over coffee. And of course, we're all online now and we can do that virtually, but, with time differences and not being in person, it can be challenging. So sometimes there can be a feeling of, who am I and what am I, you kind of wake up like, what am I doing? I'm in this new country and I don't know anyone. What have I done? Like, I think a lot of people will go through that. There's a very natural feeling to have. So
Stephanie, let me add to that question. In my mind, the picture that I have is that you go across to the new country, inevitably. Let's say, for example, it's my wife that is starting to work and I'm at home. So you first settle and do what you need to do in terms of logistics, make sure the kids are done, make sure the kids are settled, make sure that this is there, that's there, bank accounts, cars, phones, insurances, whatever the case may be. And then suddenly, I suppose, like you say, you sort of wake up one day and you go, oh, so what do you suggest people do to ensure that doesn't happen in the whirlwind of immigration? And can you prep for that, months before leaving?
I think, it may not be that it won't happen, but I think with knowledge and experience and talking about it, if and when it does happen, you can say, oh, right, Stephanie told me about this. This is to be expected. I think in terms of, I think knowing yourself and knowing what the signs are that you're feeling out of sorts or not doing well. Are you sleeping more? Do you feel more anxious? Do you feel some just malaise? And really trying to identify, well, what is it that I'm missing? Is it my job that I'm missing? Do I miss having close relationships? Am I missing my family? So sometimes it can just be an overall feeling of blah, and you want to pinpoint what it is specifically, because then you can address it. So if it's that I don't feel like I have a sense of community, you can go about trying to increase your sense of community. If it's that you don't have some meaningful activities to do during the day, you can think about how you might build that into your life. So I think self-knowledge is a big, and how you deal with change and transition is a big part of it. Also just being easy on yourself and knowing, so I see people go into new communities, and some people want to go out immediately and explore and get to know everyone and join up lots of groups and really jump right into the new culture. Some people stay in their house for weeks and then slowly, go out a little bit at a time. And that's okay too. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But I think just sort of allowing yourself to experience it, and also remembering that transition and adjustment is work.
Mhm.
You may not be going to a job every day. You may not feel like you're doing actual tasks, but transitioning your family and being the one who's there to support your family in this is work, and it requires a lot of energy, and you might be tired, and you need to sort of really practice good self-care.
Yeah. I think it's also why it's good to unpack this with people now, is that when they find themselves in that space, it's going to feel like you're the first person in the world that's going through these type of emotions. But it's good to know that it's okay to go through them, and it's a natural process to go through them. So I want to ask you two things. So what are some practical things maybe that you do as well in that case when you feel a little bit down, you don't know, if you should get out of bed today and you're just feeling down? So practical examples that the trailing spouse can do, and some practical advice for the spouse that is working. How can we support them appropriately?
Yes, that's a really good point, because it is true that the accompanying spouse or partner often gets overlooked in this process. Some companies are better at providing services and support for partners, but others aren't. So I think some practical advice, one things that I like to do are, at some point, try to define why you decided to move internationally. And people have different reasons for it. Is it that you want to explore a new culture and get to know people from different places? Do you want to travel? Some people go overseas because the career opportunity and the money is really good, and they want to go somewhere and prosper financially and then plan to return home. So if you can try to define what it is your reasons are, and make sure that you're connected to those reasons. If your reason is you want to experience new cultures and foods, are you going out and doing that? I mean, I know it's been hard during COVID, but if it's traveling, are you making the time to travel, or do the things that you like to do? I think trying to find your tribe, or trying to find the people that you feel connected with in a new community, is very important. Some expat communities are more cohesive, and you might go in and there's like a whole sort of expat scene that includes accompanying partners, and you might easily just fit right in. Some other places are harder to make inroads in, and it takes a little bit of time. So I think finding the place where you feel comfortable and can connect with people. Now, that being said, I like to say that, sometimes you have to kiss some frogs, which is sometimes you're going to go and try to find your group and it's not going to be the right one. And you could end up feeling almost more isolated because you're like, oh, well, I went out to have lunch with these people and I just didn't click with them. Now I really feel alone. So that's going to be part of it. And you have to remember that as well. In terms of the spouse, I think just continuing communication and acknowledgement of what each is going through. Because like I said before, there can be a shift in responsibility where then one person is sort of has all the responsibility for making the money and going to work and has that pressure, where the other person has different responsibilities. And to remember that each are important, and that the role of the accompanying partner is what often keeps things running, and it's a very supportive role, but very vital. So to keep the communication going. I mean, that being said, I laugh because I think there was one time when I was like to my husband, I said, I'll take your work stress if you want to stay home all day and feel like you're doing nothing. So it's like, let's trade for a day. See, then we can each see how it feels. So yeah.
So Stephanie, through that time where you had that of just going, listen, I'll take on your work stress for a day and change how you feel. What, outside of communication, what other tools are there? What other resources are there for someone that finds themselves in that space?
Yeah. I think what you said earlier is knowing that you're not alone is very important. And now there are lots of expat forums online you can join. You have to be careful because sometimes they're not so helpful, they can tend towards the negative, but there's Facebook groups. There's a lot of organizations within cities that you can connect with. And there's a lot of good literature out there now about what the international experience is like. There's a book that I like. I have it here. It's called The Emotionally Resilient Expat. That's excellent. And then there's another book about, it's called A Portable Identity, how you can maintain your sense of self when you're moving overseas. And there's some groups, like there's a group called Families in Global Transition that is excellent, that has conversations with experts, and they have a conference every year for people who live overseas and often who move frequently. So I think, researching what's out there, because there is a lot more than even since I moved overseas. There's a lot more information and conversations about what the experience is like. So I think that feeling of that other people are going through what you are going through is really, really helpful.
Yeah. So Stephanie, at the risk of standing on toes here, we're obviously very aware that, for example, Lenny and I have both got beautiful wives, but our wives are sometimes very emotional beings. Do you find that it is also more difficult for the ladies being emotional than the men, or do you find that it actually impacts both sides? I mean, it's an interesting thing, and the reason I'm asking you this, because I think that many times, you just sort of go through this process and you don't really as the man, you're not always aware of the fact that if my wife is the one that is going into the work, that this could also impact me. And I think what's really true to what you're saying now is that everybody needs to be aware that it is not just the more feminine type that are emotional. Do you know what I'm saying? So do you find that, or am I completely wrong here?
No, I think that it can impact different genders in different ways. So it could be that, and not always. I mean, if you think of the ideas of masculinity and femininity, as bigger concepts, I think people who are more emotional, there could be one person who's plugged in more to the emotions of what's happening. Now, the person going to work might get swept up in the tasks of doing a job. And it could be the person who's home, interacting with the community, interacting with the school, supporting the kids, who is experiencing more of the emotional elements of it. That being said, if you change the roles a bit and see if as a woman is working and the man is the accompanying partner, that can have a different look as well, because it's not as many men. So men may be, on PTA groups, with mostly women. They may have some questions about their role, because I think historically men have been thought of as the primary breadwinner. So they may have some doubt or some insecurity about being, staying at home and not working. So yeah, I think it can go either way, and a lot of it has to do with the individuals and the family structure as well.
So Stephanie, and I'm coming in here before Lenny, but I've got one more question to ask you from my side. I think that many times when people go overseas, and specifically, for example, going through to America, it's not always in the position that you, for example, held now, currently in South Africa. It's for different positions. So what could very possibly happen in scenarios would be that, listen, I was so used to having this world here, and now I've gone across as the employed person, but my life has changed so drastically. Now it's different cultures, different people, different scenarios, different space. Do you find that as well? And maybe suggestions on some of the resources that those people could also tap into?
Yes, absolutely. I think the key word that you were talking about is culture. And cultural differences. Not just, I think when we think of culture, often we think of language, country, but there's different cultures in workspaces. There's different school cultures. So the way that people do school in one country is different from the way they do it in another country. So absolutely, you could be doing something in a different way. And I think it also impacts the accompanying spouse, whereas perhaps you go and you want to do a job, like let's say I'm a nurse and I'm moving and I think, oh, I don't have a job now, but I'll become a nurse when I get to wherever. And then you realize, oh, wait, no, my credentials aren't recognized, or I can't do that. I have to take a different role that's maybe not the equivalent of what I did in my home country. So that can be challenging as well. One book, I recommend a lot of books because I love to read, that I think is really hits the cultural piece on the nail on the head. It's called The Culture Map by Erin Myers. And it talks a lot about the differences in culture in a really nuanced way. And I think it compares different countries to each other so that you can sort of reflect on where you're coming from and the country that you're going into, and some of the communication and outlook differences there can be, and where that can cause problems. Do you think that does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
It does. Lenny, on mute.
Sorry. So from my side, I think Trevor's asked all the questions. I thought that men just get together, if we've got issues, for a beer, I hit you on the shoulder and we're good to go. But we need some communication as well. I agree. Everything should be done in communication. Nothing else from my side. I do thank you for your time. I think we have run out of time at this stage. My last question for you, as we started, we wanted to know what makes America great. Obviously, you are an American, but you find yourself in Croatia at the moment. But according to you, what makes America great?
I love American innovation and ingenuity, and their can-do attitude. And I feel like people are I always use the example of Las Vegas, which is like you built, love it or hate it, you built this thing in the middle of the desert. You know, that's a very American concept, right? And I also love the friendliness and the warmth of people there. And so that's something that I sometimes miss being away. Yeah.
I was going to say, it sounds like you miss home.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's it from my side. Stephanie, thank you very, very much for your time. I think
Okay.
if I can take anything away from this, I will get the names of the books from you and I will
Sure.
put it on our site so that people can start reading and communicating. And obviously that's the other one is communicate as much as possible.
Yeah. And Stephanie, before I just, you know, give Lenny a punch on the shoulder and say to him, you must toughen up, Buttercup. Is there contact details that you would like to leave with our guys? We'll also obviously put it onto our stuff later, but maybe just your website address and a contact email.
Sure. Should I just send that to you? Yeah, I'll do
That'll
that. I
be
think
great.
it was with my bio, but I'll send it again.
Yes.
So that you have it.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's great. We'll make that happen. Stephanie,
Okay.
thank you so very much
Thanks
for
for
your time
having
today.
me. I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay,
Thanks, guys.
bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Good guys.